Greetings to all and welcome to today's Translational Longevity CellTalk. In this session, Divya will be presenting a talk titled Healthy Heart for Healthy Long Life. Our featured speaker, Dr. Divya Lakshmi Ramakrishna, is a scientific content writer and team lead at Renix Life Sciences since 2 years, where she has gained experience in operational, managerial, and administrative roles along with scientific activities. She has an explicit writing skills to present the articles in required formats such as blogs, white papers, disease summaries, descriptions, posters, reviews, etc. in various medical specialties with a main focus on oncology. She is involved in enhancing the scientific research content collected from a wide spectrum of literature to reach the target audience like patients, healthcare professionals, clinicians, etc. Currently, she is actively involved in the content creation of the clinical gene map project. Presently, at Renix Life Sciences, she is managing multiple teams such as the content team, data acquisition, and health analytics team, and is successful in completing the deliverables from the teams through planning, task allocation, guidance, reviews, and approvals. She is also experienced in proofreading, editing, and reviewing the documents written by other team members. Recently, she has played a major role in the initiation and execution of major projects related to healthcare monitoring of senior citizens and rural healthcare program. Now, I would like to invite Devya to take over the session.
Thank you, Yogita, for the introduction. So today I'll be talking about the healthy heart, how heart is going to affect the longevity and aging. This is the reference. Coming to the introduction, as we all know, healthy heart in a broader perspective is not merely health or cardiovascular health, but it is mentioned that it is defined as something which is more than absence of the disease. Now, this cardiovascular health, it is mainly attributed to be accessible to various individuals from various classes of researchers like clinicians, practitioners, as well as policymakers. Thus, a definition of cardiovascular health, it was proposed by the American Heart Association based on the various health metrics, such as the health behaviors as they have categorized them, and also the health factors. And this is basically known as the Life's Essential 8. And this Life's Essential 8 is an updated and an enhanced approach which is used for measuring, modifying, and monitoring the cardiovascular health. Now, what are these 8 essential factors which are included as the components of the cardiovascular health? They are mainly the 4 health behaviors, namely diet, then participation in physical activity, then smoking cessation, that is avoiding nicotine, and healthy sleep pattern. Also, the health factors which have been included is healthy weight, healthy levels of blood lipids like triglycerides, cholesterol, and blood glucose levels, and then the blood pressure. Now, these various factors which measures the cardiovascular health, they promote the cardiovascular disease as well. And these factors, they are implicated in the aging process, or which is also termed as cardiovascular aging. Now, these cardiovascular health factors which are measured, they share common pathophysiological mechanisms as well. And this basically are the main determinants of cardiovascular aging. Also, various cardiometabolic conditions such as dyslipidemia, hyperglycemia, insulin resistance, as well as arterial hypertension. They also share the common pathophysiological pathways, and this in turn affects the longevity of an individual. Along with these metabolic factors, the genetic, dietary, and the environmental characteristics of various individuals also play a role in the longevity and the cardiovascular aging. Now, there has been extensive scientific research on the mechanisms of aging and also a means of achieving longevity. 5 places in the world, they are termed as the blue zones, which are the areas where highest percentage of centenarians are supposed to be living. And one of the important places is IKARIA, and an important study has been conducted there, and which is based on the pathophysiological mechanisms of cardiovascular aging and longevity, along with the interaction and their translation into lifestyle behaviors. This is just an overview of the various blue zones across the globe. One is Loma Linda in California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, then Sardinia at Italy, and IKARIA, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. Now, these are the various potential pathophysiological factors which have a common or an interlinking mechanisms for which affect the cardiovascular aging as well as longevity. Now, to name a few are oxidative stress, the inflammatory activation or the inflammatory component in the body, the various metabolic disorders, then hyperglycemia, hyperinsulinemia, insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, various vascular disorders like arterial hypertension, then endothelial dysfunction, arterial stiffness, and also telomere length and genetic epigenetic mechanisms along with DNA methylation. Now we would see the highlights or the important health factors or the various common pathophysiological mechanisms which are associated with cardiovascular aging. So first one is the oxidative stress. Now this oxidative stress is nothing but it is a disturbance in the balance between the production of reactive oxygen species, that is the free radicals and the antioxidant defenses. So this oxidative stress in turn will lead to cellular senescence and also apoptosis or cell death. And this as a means of protection from the harmful impact of persistent oxidative stress or the cellular necrosis, thus promoting the aging process. The next factor is the inflammatory components that are present in the body, and they are termed here as inflammaging and anti-inflammaging. Now, inflammaging here is a distinct pathophysiological entity which helps to describe the chronic, progressing, increasing pro-inflammatory status, and which is one of the very important characteristics in the aging process. And anti-inflammaging is nothing but a successful response of the body to the low-grade inflammation, which can have an effect on the longevity. Now, this has been explained in this figure where the various components which cause inflammaging and anti-inflammaging are highlighted, where interleukin, tumor necrosis factor, and all this is upregulated by the oxidative stress and reduced autophagy. And along with that, the possible genetic modulation as well. And this accelerates the cardiovascular aging, in turn causing a shorter lifespan. And also it helps in the occurrence of various age-related diseases like atherosclerosis, arterial hypertension, diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. Whereas anti-inflammaging, that is the possible effects of the anti-inflammatory properties, which is caused by statins, acetyl salicylic acid, or that is aspirin, which is given in many of the patients, and RAS inhibitors and interleukin-6, they slow down the cardiovascular aging and thus increase the longevity. The other next important factor is the glucose metabolism and abnormal glucose metabolism, that is hyperinsulinemia or hyperglycemia, and also insulin resistance. This contributes to accelerated cardiovascular aging. and various physiological mechanisms are involved here, and one of them is the inhibition of the anti-aging proteins. Also, the disrupted regulation of molecules which are related to longevity, also they cause the abnormal glucose metabolism, thus having a bidirectional relationship between longevity and the glucose metabolism. Whereas the normal glucose metabolism and low insulin levels and higher insulin sensitivity, it is a marker of healthy cardiovascular aging and longevity. This has been described here as in this figure, that is the abnormal glucose metabolism and the normal glucose metabolism causing reduced cardiovascular mortality, as well as thus increasing the longevity. Next, coming to various factors like dyslipidemia, where the age-related mechanisms, they mediate the alterations of lipoprotein synthesis, thus causing dyslipidemia. And also the amount of total body fat, mainly the visceral fat, which increases, that also causes reduced insulin sensitivity, low-grade inflammation, and production of atherogenic lipoproteins, which causes altered blood lipid levels. And also in hyperglycemia patients, the aging factor is seen, as well as genetic modulation of these lipoproteins is also implicated in the relationship of longevity. The primary vascular disorders like hypertension, arterial stiffness also has an effect on the cardiovascular aging. Next, coming to the short telomere length, which is associated with many age-related diseases, and they also promote the cardiovascular aging and increases cardiovascular mortality. Like the short telomere length is associated with shorter lifespan. Again, here oxidative stress and low-grade inflammation are the major pathophysiological mechanisms which are associated with atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and this accelerates the shortening of the telomere length. Whereas long telomere length has been associated with decreased cardiovascular aging and longevity. This increased telomerase activity or the long telomere length, it causes reduced cardiovascular disease and longevity. This is because of the protection from the oxidative stress and improves the mitochondrial function, and it modulates DNA repair and also regulates the myocardial repair and rejuvenation. Short telomere length, again, is because of oxidative stress, inflammatory factors, and as well as p53 mutation causes apoptosis and cell senescence, thus leading to dyslipidemia, arterial hypertension, diabetes, stroke, MI, and all these increases the cardiovascular mortality as well as reduced life expectancy or reduced longevity. Now, the various health behavioral factors are the healthy diet, physical activity, and smoking cessation, which are the major predominant factors, and also environmental factors like air pollution, climate, and gamma radiation exposure also promotes cardiovascular aging and longevity. Now, this abstaining from smoking or a cessation of smoking is a fundamental cause for healthy aging and longevity. And smoking is definitely a risk factor in cardiovascular disease, as you all know. And physical activity, exercise are considered to contribute to healthy aging and prolonged lifespan. This physical activity also promotes cardiovascular health because of reduction of various risk factors. And it is supposed to have an anti-aging property, which also affects the telomere length. They are interrelated. The environmental factors include the inhaled air pollutants. This in turn also increases the oxidative stress and induces inflammation. And also air pollution is known to cause increased arterial stiffness also. And atherosclerotic plaque formation is also being reported. There are studies, and there is also evidence that temperature and cardiovascular mortality are interrelated. That is, both cold and hot temperatures, it may affect the cardiovascular health, where the cold temperatures is to have an associated stronger effect on the cardiovascular health. Thus, people living in cold regions are more prone to or more susceptible to cardiovascular disease. Now, diet. Mediterranean diet has been suggested and also studied to have highlighted that it is beneficial to the cardiovascular health and as well as holistic health. This cardiovascular protection by the Mediterranean diet is also related to cardiovascular aging as well. That is, again, coming to the pathophysiological mechanisms, they are interrelated to oxidative stress, endothelial dysfunction, and inflammation. There has also been reports in few studies which states that coffee intake is one of the dietary factors contributing to longevity because of the presence of polyphenols in coffee, which acts as antioxidants. Now, thus increased coffee consumption was shown to be associated with low total mortality in both the genders as well as lower cardiovascular and stroke-related mortality. The other dietary pattern or the dietary approach which have shown extensive studies are longevity, which is linked to the calorie restriction. Low calorie diet is supposed to have a promising path to longevity. Also, aspirin or acetylsalicylic acid, which is a anti-inflammatory and antithrombotic drug. It is recognized to, if this is supposed to be a calorie restricted mimetic, and this induces autophagy. So this also is known to prolong longevity as well as it lowers the inflammatory process. Now, this is the overall illustration which shows the various common pathophysiological mechanisms or the links between cardiovascular aging and longevity. Increase in aging decreases longevity, and decreased aging increases longevity. And also the various, they have categorized as the various factors have been categorized as the modifiable factors, non-modifiable, as well as both. So under modifiable factors, obviously diet, the various factors of diet, that is the Mediterranean diet, low calorie, exercise, and smoking are attributed. And the non-modifiable factor is definitely the genetic background, and the environmental factors could be modified, and I mean depending on the requirement. So thus, to conclude that delaying the cardiovascular aging becomes a very important aspect to increase the likelihood of longevity. So in order to attain this, various health behaviors and health factors as suggested by the Essential 8 by the American Heart Association includes various factors like the Mediterranean diet, low calorie intake, physical activity, smoking, the genetic and environmental background of the various individuals. And this mainly the factors which delay cardiovascular aging thus helps to reach the goal of longevity. Thank you, everybody, for your patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Divya, for delivering such an insightful talk. Here we have some questions from the audience. Nupur asked, can proper diet and lifestyle reduce CV aging?
Yeah, maybe to some extent, proper diet and physical activity may help in prolonging the assessment of longevity. But again, it is depends on the predisposing factor of mainly the genetic background, which is non-modifiable, as it has been mentioned here. So associated genetic as well as family history, as well as various chronic diseases. If the patient is not associated with any of these, then definitely physical activity and thing can help to prolong the cardiovascular aging and longevity as well.
I hope it answers your question, Nupur. Divya, I have one question. What are the future directions for research on health behaviors and cardiovascular aging?
So health behavioral pattern itself is a separate entity, if I'm right, like the diet itself and the smoking cessation. There are already a lot of research going on. Here I have just tried to consolidate all of them to a very a smaller extent, and there are definitely more elaborate studies which are already underway for reduction in the cardiovascular aging. And for different age groups, definitely the directions and the activities which will be suggested will vary depending on the present age of the patient or the individual.
Thank you, Divya, for answering those questions. I don't see any further question in the chat box. So thank you again for such a nice talk. And as we reach the end of today's webinar, I extend my gratitude to each of you for your participation. And I sincerely hope that you found this presentation to be informative and valuable. So thank you all for joining us today.